As I'm sure most of you know already, there's this thing called ChatGPT, which is an AI language model which allows you to type whatever you want to it and it will respond to you in a human-like manner. So as a software developer, a good amount of our time is using our search engines to search up solutions to the problems that we're trying to fix. So instead of using Google, we can now use ChatGPT for it. The way that you use ChatGPT versus Google, whatever search engine you're using, is a bit different. With the search engine, you'll typically only enter keywords related to the problem you're trying to solve, while with ChatGPT, you write to it in a human-like manner. So in this example that I'm going to do for us, we're going to be creating a Django project, which also uses HTMX and Tailwind. So if we're using a search engine, we'll typically go Django, HTMX, or depending on how new you are, you'll just go Django. You'll then go through Django documentation here. You might then look up Django HTMX, then you might look up Django Tailwind, and you'll go like that. Depending on how new you are to this stuff, you would have to look up a bunch more things. So go through documentation to find out how to install Django, then maybe you just want to look up HTMX first, go through documentation for how to do that, and then you want to look up how to integrate it into Django, and then same thing again with Tailwind. Maybe you want to install it by itself and then connect it to Django, or however it is. But with ChatGPT, you can just type into it and it will bring up pretty accurate results to you. So as we want to create a Django project which is using HTMX and Tailwind, let's type something like, I want to create a Django project that uses HTMX and Tailwind. Give me instructions on how to create this. So something along the lines of that in a human-like manner which clearly explains what it is you want. So with the search engine, you're just typing in the keywords because you're trying to hit as many things as possible related to what you're doing. But with ChatGPT, you tell it exactly what it is you want. So let's submit that and let's see what results it produces for us. Okay, so it's finished producing its response. So I have no idea how accurate this is. If it works, then awesome. And if it doesn't work, then we will continue using ChatGPT to try figure out newer or better solutions to make it work. So I've already got a project open in VS Code. So let's go through this and see what it tells us to do. So first things first, need to install Python and then install Django. Gives you the link to Python to install it, and then it gives you instructions on how to install Django. So I'm pretty sure I have Python installed here. Yep, so typed Python in, brought up 3.11 shell, so we'll X from that. Now we'll do pip install Django. So this will give us the most up-to-date version of it. As you can see, it's downloading version 4.2.5, and it's now installed. So the next command it wants us to run is Django-admin start project name. So we will do Django-admin start project, and we'll call this Django HTMX Tailwind. And it's saying it's not a valid name. Maybe we need to do underscores instead of dashes. So that time it was me that's the problem. So as we can see, ls, we've now got directory there. If we open up Explorer, we have got our Django HTMX Tailwind Django project. So next thing we need to do is, so I've got the Django project, now we need to create the Django app. So we need to first change into the Django directory, and now with python manage.py, manage.py being the script within Django which allows you to manage the Django project, we then type start app, and we'll just call this my app for simplicity. So this will create right here the my app directory, and it contains files for our my app. So with that, it now wants us to configure the Django settings. So that's in the main project directory and then settings.py, and it wants us to go to installed apps and add our app into it. So installed apps is here. Now we just need to enter my app. And it now wants us to also configure our static files and templates. So I think that's at the bottom here. Okay, I've got static URL. We will copy static files dir here. And do we already have template in here? We do. So we should add into dirs here, OS path based templates. So we've set up our Django project for now, I guess. So ChatGPT now wants us to install HTMX and Tailwind. So apparently there is a Python library that's called just HTMX. So let's see if that works. So pip install HTMX. Okay, I didn't know there was a Python library called HTMX. So I was I'm kind of expecting that to not work. Well, while that's loading, I'm curious. Let's try look up that library. Can we go here and then just project HTMX? Okay, so it does exist, but it doesn't really have any info for it. So we'll have to see if it actually works. Okay, so that package is now installed. So it now wants us to follow the Tailwind CSS instructions that I found here. So let's see what it wants us to do. Okay, so the instructions are currently set up for using npm. I prefer not to use npm for this one. So are there any... So for the sake of simplicity with this project, we'll just use the CDN script, which we will do later on when we create the templates. So we'll carry on with this. So create templates and HTMX attributes. So in your apps templates directory, so we go to our app, we need to create a templates directory, and we will create, what does it want us to do? So in here, someone here wants us to create what's called extends base HTML. Actually, we'll do that. We'll create a base.html, and we'll just do the general template like that, and then in the body we'll do block content and end block. So we'll do that, and then we'll create index.html. This will be extends base HTML, and then we will just copy and paste this into here. So as you can see on this button, it has hx-get. That's an HTMX property which will perform a GET request based on the URL we have as a string here. So as you can see, it's using Django templating for it, so URL, and from my app, we will be calling load data. So the data that we get in response, we'll be putting that into the data container right there. This div right here with the ID data container. Okay, so it looks pretty straightforward. So now we need to create our view. So we'll go to views, and we'll just copy and paste it into here. So let's take a look at what it does. So we've got index, this is just returning the HTML file, then load data, message, and then this is dynamic data from server, and that's being returned as JSON. We'll probably want to change this so it actually loads HTML, but we can do that later. So we now need to create the URL. So then in the app, it's telling us to create urls.py, and we will copy that into here. Okay, so now it's telling us to create the base template. I assumed we just forgot it, but it's now there, and that looks very similar to what we were already doing. Oh, and it's giving us URLs for Tailwind and then HTMX. Although something that we should check is what versions is it giving us. So we'll look up Tailwind 2.2.15, and then we'll look up HTMX 1.7.0. So as we can see in this description, it's saying February 2022, and then for this Tailwind, appears to be 2021. So that's one of the things you need to look out for with just using ChatGPT. Like the responses it gives you will sometimes be outdated, or things like this, where it's using specific version numbers, will typically be outdated. So that's something you need to look out for. So if we say HTMX CDN, probably in the documentation you can find the most up-to-date version. So let's go installing, copy this. It's typically best to have the integrity check in it. So that will now go here. And for Tailwind, that was in here. So CDN, okay, this one doesn't have a version number on it, but I'm sure that's fine. So we'll copy this and we will put it here. So I've got that base template done. Now let's see. Yeah, it wants us to run the server now. So Python manage.py run server. And it's given us an error because name OS is not defined. So let's see where it was defined, what was happening up here. So yep, so it told us to use OS as a path, but it never told us to actually import OS. So we need to go settings.py, we'll go over to here, and we'll do import OS. Let's see if that works now. Yep, so it's now running. So if we go to this, it's taking us to the default Django page, but what URL did it tell us to set? So it told us to create these URLs in the myapp urls.py, but we'd never actually linked it to the main project URLs. So I know how to solve this, but for the sake of using ChatGPT, we'll pretend we don't actually know what is happening. So we'll say, when I go to localhost 8000, it displays the Django page and not my index.html. How do I fix this? Okay, so it's finished generating a response, so let's take a look at what it says. So if you're seeing the default page instead of your one, that means the project's URL pattern is taking precedence over the one we created. So we need to go to our project's urls.py, which is located up here. And then here, we first need to import include. So in here we go comma include. And then over here, we do path. We'll do a blank string. And this will be include my app.urls. And add a comma to the end there. So let's go back to here, refresh the page and see if it works. Template does not exist at slash. So myapp/index.html. Let's take a look at what the error is here. Okay, I know what the mistake is now. So it's searching for templates in a different location. So in this path, it goes to the app we created /templates/myapp/index.html. So let's see if they did that wrong, whether it was my mistake. Yeah, so that appears to be my mistake. Templates/myapp/index. So in here, the myapp templates, there should also be my app here. We then do move index into there, and then that should be fine. So hopefully that's all that was wrong. Okay, now there's another issue. So for this one, it's inside the HTML file. The extends base HTML. That should be a dot, shouldn't it? Yep, so that was the issue with that one. So now we've got my app is not a registered namespace. Okay, so this looks like a problem for ChatGPT. We'll copy this error message, and then we'll copy where this error occurred. And let's see what response it gives. Okay, so it says, this error indicates that Django is unable to locate the URL pattern named myapp::load data. So I can't resolve the namespace place, so let's look at the troubleshooting steps it gives us. So in settings, installed apps, we have it installed, so it's not that. Check your URL pattern, so that will be the myapp URL. This looks correct, so it's load data / views.load data, and we have named it load data, so that is looking fine. So in your template, the tag should reference the URL pattern by its name without the app namespace. So we should be changing it to this. Let's see if we do that, whether it will start working. So we'll refresh the page, and it's worked. So we've now got a button here. So I guess the real question is, will it load the data? So we click it, and it's displayed the message. So if we go to network for HTMX, let's do that again. Let's see the response. It just sends the JSON to us. But because this is HTMX, we want to be sending HTML back. So we'll go ChatGPT. I want the load data to be returning HTML and not JSON. So we'll write this to, as we are using HTMX, I want the load data to return HTML and not JSON. So let's see what it gives us for this. Okay, so it's given us a response. So update your load data in views.py, and we'll have data equals this, but instead we'll be using the Django render, and we will be using my app data template. So this will be my app data template.html and data as the context. So we've changed views.py, Now we need to create the data template HTML. So this will be in templates, my app, and this is data template.html, and we'll just copy this in. So with that, update your index.html to include an empty container where the loaded data will be inserted. Modify the hx target attribute for that. Although I think okay, so that is already working. Yeah, that looks like it's fine. So I've got it running. We'll go back to here, refresh, and we'll do load data. And this is dynamic data from the server. So if we go back, let's look at the network and the response. If we go raw, see it's just returning HTML, and then HTMX is just putting it in. And let's update this. So I want data template to include Tailwind. So it's now just giving us a bunch of Tailwind to put into the data template. So let's copy that, and we'll put that here. And if we click load data, because Django is already refreshed, it should now return like this. Alright, so I hope this was useful in helping you understand how you as a software developer can use ChatGPT to solve problems for yourself. So I actually wanted to create a Django HTMX Tailwind project for myself, and I thought, why not create a video on it by using ChatGPT to do it? Because I use ChatGPT for pretty much every issue I have in software development now, because it can so quickly and easily just produce information for you. Although, as we saw, the information it produces isn't always correct, so you do need to look over it yourself, because if you don't, and you just put random code into your projects, you could cause issues for yourself. I hope you liked this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe.